So, welcome to Auntie's House podcast. And today, our guest is Oscar Castellino.
Hello.
I live in a house.
I live in a house
that has no doors.
that has no doors.
That has no windows and no floors. I live in a house.
I live in a house
that has no stairs.
that has no stairs.
That has no tables and no chairs. It has no below.
It has no below.
And it has no above.
And it has no above.
All it has is a lot of love.
Lot of love.
There we will go. 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 Well, you have a beautiful baritone voice,
Thank
Oscar.
you. It was great to join you.
And tell me, how did you come into Auntie's house?
How did I come into Auntie's house? I got a call one day when I was living as a student in Lee Abbey, which is a wonderful halls of residence in London, in Kensington, and somebody needed a baritone for an opera. And I came to sing to Baluji, who composed the opera, right here in this room. I remember meeting him for the first time. He was sitting right there. Nobody can see it in the screen, but there. And I entered and I shook his hand and he spoke to me in Hindi, and then we tried a bit of the opera. But that was working on the opera. But eventually I went to study in Wales, and Baluji and Linda told me that when I come to London to do some performances, opera tours, I could, stay in the house. And I did that. It was very helpful. And then I realized that Baluji and Linda run a wonderful charity, and then I could help a bit with it whenever they could find me not running away somewhere. And then after I got a visa after my education in 2019, that's when I've been staying here long term.
Because you got caught in the pandemic, didn't you?
Immediately there was the pandemic, and I was very lucky to probably live in the best place you could live in the world during the pandemic. 'Cause there's a wonderful garden at the back, and as compared to people who'd be stuck in a flat, something like that, we had everything here, and it was good sunshine that summer, and we could do a lot of gardening. So that was a few years in the pandemic, and now it's all opened up, and we're doing this podcast.
So you really have an incredible number of talents, Oscar. You didn't originally train as a musician, as a singer. What was your first training?
After school, I trained first in physics. So I did a degree in physics, and that's an incredible subject. Still very interested in physics, as and when I get a break to explore a bit. And then I did software. Now, physics was research, and I did, help in research institutes in India while I was doing my BSc, Bachelor's in Physics, for 3 years. But then we also had modules in computer science, which is programming, and I found that to be more. You get your results more quickly, whereas in physics it could take years to get something done. So because it was so quick, I got attracted to computer science, and I love logic and programming. And my elder brother was also into computer science, so I thought, and he used to give me these programming puzzles, and I really liked them, and I liked programming. So then I did advanced diploma in programming, and because of that, I got a job in a software company in India, which is close to home. So I was there for about 4 years before I went into opera.
And how did that happen?
Yeah, so I did sing because my family, I was born in Bombay, and my family, we moved to very far from Bombay to Mussoorie. That's a hill station in the foothills of the Himalayas, or Himalayas as we call it. And out there, in Bombay, we have quite a rich sort of singing culture in church and hymns and everything. But so when we went to Mussoorie, my dad took over the choir. And so he was not much of a musician, but he could sing, and my whole family can sing because we do that all the time. We sing in parties, and everybody can sing in tune. My mom also has a good loud voice. My dad had a good kind of deep voice. So they took over the church choir in Mussoorie, where out there they did not have such a good culture of singing at that point in time. And I remember my dad would conduct with his glasses. He would conduct, so that's everybody to make fun of him. The kids in school, they would take the glasses and start conducting with the glass, with their eyeglasses. So yeah, so that's how. So I said I was definitely singing, and when I started my software job, I realized that I needed something else to do in the evenings, because if you don't do that, you end up sitting in an office, and a lot of people sit very late. So if you have something to do, you work quicker. You need to get somewhere. So I joined a choir, which my dad encouraged me to do. Singing, I also started dance classes. So I started these two things, something to do 3 to 4 nights in the week. And in this choir, I really developed my voice. It was they were singing different styles, but they did sing a lot of in this sort of classical church style, or just classical style. They did opera as well, like opera choruses and stuff. So I can tell you it's a long stories, but anyway, eventually, I got into opera. The thing is that I was very scared when I got into the choir. I can tell you, the second concert, for example, I didn't really sing. I just opened my mouth. So. If Alfred is listening, is my choir conductor, who really taught all of us, who helped us, develop stagecraft and everything. He does everything in the choir. He sort of does the costumes and set design and everything. So if he's listening, I didn't sing in the second concert. I was just opening my mouth. I was too scared because everybody sounded so good. But then eventually. The bass section that I was in, a lot of people used to not come to practice, and I had to learn my bit, because if I was alone, Alfred could make out, but he that I'm not singing or whatever. But I had to learn my bit because I was not into reading music as well, so I had to work extra hard, and this to be a long journey from my computer institute to there, so I could sit on the bus and learn my notes. And so when I come to choir, and he was very meticulous, Alfred, so we had to get it all right, and that was very good. Then Patricia Rosario came to Scout for Talent in Bombay, because she's a successful singer here, opera singer, Patricia Rosario, OBE. So she came to India and heard singers from the choirs, and then she said, maybe you could give it a shot. And that was, wow, somebody's telling me that I could, come to the Royal College. So I came to Royal College, auditioned, and yeah, there's a lot of. It's a longer story, but
So you've had some incredible, auspicious meetings with people who have shaped your life, really, haven't you?
yeah,
Because also you've had such a wonderful education, a primary and secondary education, and that was because your father was the head teacher.
yeah,
And so you had that education given to you that you didn't have to pay for,
yes,
whereas other people had to pay a lot of money
out of
for
money,
that.
yes.
And that really set you off. Do you think that really gave you a foundation?
Yes, because even the school, the alumni, they are all around the world doing, and they come and visit as chief guests or whatever and tell us what they've done. You know, there are two schools there, one in Missouri, one in Dehradun. The ambassador at the embassy here was from one of our schools, for example, in London. So we'd meet all these army officers. A lot of people went to army. We had Olympic gold medalists in hockey. So we'd always hear these stories of people who were,
Who was successful?
yeah, and they were sitting in the same seat that we were sitting in, same classrooms. And then they'd done this. So you always believe that, And the school has students from rich families, but they also support. I was a child of a teacher, but you have they support other kids who cannot afford as well. So, and many of the successful people were not necessarily from rich families. So just the education there, and at St. George's College, I should definitely mention St. George's College, Missouri, uh, was definitely helpful in shaping belief that you could go out there not only in India but internationally and do something and become a prominent figure. Yeah.
And that was very much a Christian institution, wasn't it?
Yeah, so it's run by the Catholic brothers from Ireland, called the Patrician Brothers. So we had Brother Carol, who was a principal who I met recently in London. Yeah, it is a Christian institution. They follow Christian values, and but also people of all faiths are there, and there's no distinction, and we celebrate all the festivals.
Was the language at school, that was English, an English medium school?
Yes, so yeah, you're not really allowed to speak any other language in school because most of the parents would send their kids there to actually, one important thing was to learn English, because that's quite, even in India, to be successful, you should speak English to an extent. So it's a little odd to think that in India you're not allowed to speak Hindi, but that's what they sent them there, and they knew what they were sending them, to do, and that's the way they did improve their English. Otherwise, everybody's speaking Hindi, or there were students from Thailand, or there were students from Nepal, and they'd just be in their groups and speak their languages. So this encouraged people to speak in English. My first language is English, because my parents and even my grandparents spoke English at home, so that was okay for me. But yeah, a lot of students came there, from the north of India, especially because they don't speak. A lot of them don't speak Hindi, English, sorry, and they don't have much of command over it at home. So yeah, so that was English medium school.
In a way, you've learnt to speak Hindi more since you've been in England.
Yeah, so I didn't really speak Hindi, and I was quite shy to speak Hindi, because initially they'd make fun of me if I tried. So, because they're really good at, because if you come from Bombay, you speak sort of broken Hindi, and then you go to the north and they speak really good Hindi, and the grammar's very good. So you just sound funny, and they just make fun of you. So I'm not going to speak. And they say one line in Hindi, one thing. And now, in fact, this after coming here, and then Baluji's living here, and sometimes I speak in Hindi, and he's not stopping me if I, make a mistake, and we just continue having a conversation. So probably biology is the person I spoke Hindi the most to. And my schoolmates have not heard me speak in Hindi.
Aha. Well, maybe some of them will be listening now.
Yeah.
So, and also it's very interesting because you had this super education, but your lifestyle was still very simple, not very luxurious. And in a way, that was a wonderful combination because it seems to have given you a flexibility and an adaptability. Is that true? I thought that, seeing how you adapt to situations.
Yeah, that's interesting. Because for some reason, I was never under the sort of peer pressure if they wore, fancy. So we were running, and I was a runner. And we used to run these cross country races, which I do really well and come the first in my class quite often. But I had just very average shoes, and they'd have Nikes or something. But I never, for some reason, thought about that. And maybe it's my family, because my family is quite simple. So, and my parents were teachers there, so you don't get much of a salary. I mean, you get your food, but you don't have really money to buy. I remember I would go with my dad, and my mom would tell him. I knew what my mom would buy because she also came from a financially not very well-to-do family. So when I would go with my dad, and if he would buy something that was for shoes, right? So if he would buy something that was 200 rupees, I would say no, we got to keep it 100 or below. So I remember my mom and my sister told me that you should tell him. And I kind of remember it as well. So that I had that, but no, we're not going to buy expensive shoes because can't afford it. And when you live in the school, it's fine. Everything is found there, and of course the clothes you have to get your. And I also used to get use my brother's clothes. So I had two elder brothers, so their clothes or our neighbors' children's clothes would come to me. So I very rarely had something new to wear. And it was a school uniform and everything. We got so I think it was more of the family thing. And I don't know about the other sort of the staff children, if how they have. I'm sure a lot of them are like me, because we saw that, but for some reason we were not attracted to, or thought that we were entitled to have the same clothes that the others wore. But also the school tried to make everybody uniform, so you couldn't probably wear too fancy stuff, and we had a school uniform basically. So I think it was more to do with my family. But then we also had another school nearby, which was for local children from villages who could not afford it all. So we had St. George's, and we had right next to us Nirmala School, which also, the money that came to St. George's made a lot of money, and whatever money they made would go over to Nirmala. So we'd often go and visit them in the school. There was all different financial backgrounds. Yeah.
And you continue to live very frugally. I mean, you always find the best deals, and I'm sure that's a continuation of that mindset. But despite coming from a very humble background, you've managed to travel, you've managed to finance going to university here to study music. And that's often because you've managed to attract support from various people. I mean, that's very unusual, really, how you've managed to do that. How do you think? Is it chance? Is it luck? Is it fate? Did you have a strong feeling that you were destined to do what you do, or were you just good at taking opportunities as they came?
I'm not particularly hardworking, but I'm sort of open and listening and looking around for opportunities. In in India. So I thought I was destined in a way, because when Patricia told me, for example, and another guy, Parvesh, who's a very supportive pianist and who also from a software background in India, and these two people who I trusted said that you can make it. So I thought I should in opera, and there were a lot of hurdles to cross. Luckily, I just looked at one at a time. I didn't even think of the others that were coming. So first was the audition, or even to travel to London to get, to finance the audition trip, which was a little money compared to what I had to get later. But that time it was a big amount. So come to London, do your audition, to get through that. And luckily, Patricia, she did not tell me that it's so difficult. She just told me what I need to do: learn 3 songs, opera arias, opera aria, oratorio piece, and an art song. You learn these 3, come here, sing them. When I came here, and after that I got out, I saw a lot of students, and I realized there's hundreds applying, which I didn't know. And they all have training already. So it's good she didn't tell me. I mean, she didn't even think of telling me that. So I went there, gave it my shot, thinking that, I have a good chance. That was crossed, and then after that, okay, you get to raise a lot of money for your education and living. So then I went back to India after the audition, and then did concerts, and I was receptive to people, and I met people who have businesses, and they supported me. But if I go back to think about raising, if you ask me now to raise a similar amount of money, it's impossible. How did you do that? It's somebody else who did it for me. It looks like some other person. And me 10 years ago was somebody else who was motivated to raise that money. And then I did that for 4 years. So every year you'd raise that money. Sometimes the last, you'd have to leave the country if you didn't raise that money. So that was the thing, a deadline. You got to leave the country, so you get it somehow. And then even to get the visa after that,
Were you anxious about that?
I have a lot. I don't really dwell in anxiety something, because I think it just drives you in the wrong direction. So you just have to be positive until, of course, they say go back to country, and then you have to go back. So until then, I don't. There is a bit of it, but generally, I think it's sort of a negative energy that sort of will give you some sort of energy where people may not help you more. So if you're more confident and because you have to tell people, I've got so many people already supporting me, and we just need to bridge that gap, sort of thing. And then they realize that you're going to do it anyway, and we can just help you in your journey to get to where you are, which is true. And they help me. So every year, it's like £30,000. So about 22 for the course fees, and then the rest for living. But Lee Abbey, which is holds a residence, really helped me with living and food. So that was really helpful. So my living expenses, more or less, I had to work every year so that they renew it. I got like a Warden's Award, like best student of the for the first year, and then that continued. So yeah, it is very difficult, and I could not guide anybody how to do it. It's like, how do you do that? Just think, things come together somehow. But there's a lot of people now coming to sing opera, and they somehow everybody thinks, I think it's easier now. Because there's more awareness of people from different backgrounds doing opera, and there's more support and all that compared to 10 years ago.
So you feel that the world of opera has become more diverse, as they say? Diverse
and supportive of people, and people looking, for people from other backgrounds.
Do you think that's true in the whole of Europe, or is it particularly so in Britain?
I think for sure in Germany as well. I don't know about the other places. For sure in Germany and Britain. Because Germany is sort of, they say, easier in a way because there's a lot more opera. So a lot of people were suggesting to me to go to Germany. Maybe I would try explore there as well. But I'm very attracted to the UK, and I'm from Bombay. London is like Bombay in a way, just more peaceful and a little more organized. So I'm so at home in the UK. But yeah, maybe I should explore Germany and the rest of Europe as well.
I noticed during lockdown when you would be awake all evening working in the kitchen making our new website, or you were very kind of hermetic. You seem very self-contained, that you don't need much beyond yourself. You're very grounded in yourself. Is that true? Is that a true impression?
That is true. And that's why my friend Parvez said you should go to Mars. So
That's nice.
so and I think I could, two and a half years is a trip to Mars and back, whatever. So you'd be alone or with a few other people, and then we did that in the lockdown pretty much. There's a few more people, but I told you, it's like a spaceship.
Yeah.
That we are on.
Halfway to Mars.
Yeah, and we did a song, Halfway to Mars. I don't know how that originated. I think it may be that in school, because I was a staff kid and my parents were, headmaster and headmistress. My mother was at junior school. So I really, the other students sort of not stayed away from me, but it was not easy to make like good friends. So I was kind of alone in that way. So I didn't have really close friends growing up,
So do you think your brother and sister have that same ability to be self-motivated, self-contained?
Yeah. They'd be fine alone. they wouldn't miss people. Yeah.
So you would never feel lonely?
No. I mean, unless, if it's forever.
Solitary confinement.
If you say 5 years, 10 years, you're going to be alone, I think I'll be okay. I mean, I think I'd be better than most people.
Yeah. But then on the other hand, you're extremely people-friendly. You've received a lot of help from people, but you also are very generous. You give a lot of help to people. You don't seem to resent it if people ask you for help. We did a project. We had a lot of blind musicians from India here, and you were very active in supporting them. Or if there's a problem, somebody comes to you and asks for help. You seem to be very naturally helpful.
Yeah, that was a lot of fun. I don't think I help as much as I would like to. But I think that whatever I do has to be fun. And that was like an adventure, for example. And that's the way, if you have to do something, then you have to find a way to make it fun for yourself. Then otherwise you're sort of eating into your soul. If you do something regularly that does that, it's no good. So you have to find a way of making it fun. And I think for most things, I think I've not done something on a long term, at least in the last 10, 15 years, that was unbearable or something, or even mildly unbearable. So sometimes I do things that I don't really want to do, but you got to find a way of making like game or make it fun. With the musicians of India, that was a wonderful experience. And they all were very different, and we were laughing most of the time. So that was not much work really. But I think everything has to. Yeah, I sort of, if I ever have negative thoughts, I think I just move them aside and concentrate on this. If you growing up in India, you see people suffering all the time, and everything side by side. So you understand you're always better than somebody else. And a lot of people look at me and think this guy is super privileged. Yeah.
So do you think that is something that that is an attitude that people can learn to cultivate, or is it just a natural way of being, do you think?
I don't know if I'm just thinking of myself, and if I had any examples of it. It can be natural, but I think if you remind, like, if somebody's bringing up a kid, and probably could remind them all the time. I wonder if it's also do with my Catholic Christian upbringing, because in that sense you have a faith in God, so you know that, and you think, oh, I thought that he is just and he has a plan for you. Okay, so there's it's all part of the plan.
So you felt looked after.
Yeah, even at being alone, you feel you have a friend,
Right.
right? Who's better than any other friend. So
That's fabulous.
suppose I tell somebody who's an atheist that Obama is taking care of you, like, he's or like somebody they admire, okay, who has power. Okay, he's looking after, and you can just call him whenever you want to, and nobody's going to talk to you though. Everybody's going to be unfriendly with you. So they'll be okay. That'll be fine, I guess, because the guy at the top is looking after me, looking for me, and if there's some real trouble, he's going to come to save me. And then probably you don't fall into real trouble. So I think that could be a reason. Yeah. Now it is natural, but that could be, and yes, that's how probably religion helps a lot of people. Who it helps, who take it in a positive way.
Yeah, in a positive way. It's interesting because over here we don't think, or we're not very aware of the Christian community in India. And from knowing you and other Indian Christians, it's a very powerful community, even though it's a very small minority.
Yeah.
Do Indian Christians, do they get into political power? Is there a space for them there?
Yeah, I mean, we've had the defense minister was George Fernandez. I don't know how. The thing is, I'm not talking about like if he believes or not, but he's part of the community.
Yeah.
And you are part of the community, even if somebody's an atheist. Because that's your identity, and you tend to, because otherwise you're just left on your own. For example, Christians take care of other Christians, and you have even the Catholics take care of other Catholics. You have institutions, the best institutions in India. Many of the top ones are Catholic, and you get in there as a student, with a lower cutoff, for example, and even when you go to church, there are activities. You meet people who very often, like in Bombay, the Christians, a lot of them tend to speak English or Konkani, which is the language from Goa. So language, your food, and even if you believe in our God, you will want to be part. You'll miss being part of it.
Yeah, the rituals and the social aspect. The support.
Yeah. So in Goa, for example, and Kerala, there's a lot of Christians. So a lot of people in politics are Christian. We don't have a lot in the central government, but we've had a few. We've had a few Christians. I don't know. They didn't really talk about their Christian faith or anything like that. But being religious isn't a attractive thing in India, because a lot of people are religious. So even if you're Christian and religious, but you got to respect all the other religions, then you're accepted. So if George Fernandez had a name that is George Fernandez, that's how we say. We don't say Fernandez. We say Fernandez in Goa. But people accepted him, and he was very popular. He was a very simple man. He didn't want security. Yeah, so you can make it even if you're not Hindu. Yeah.
So how do you feel that the experience of living here, how many years have you been in Britain?
I think it's 11 years, so, or more than that. No, yeah. 11 is going to be 12 this year, yeah.
How has that changed you, do you think?
When I came here initially, there was this thing about people in London, people at Imperial College, Royal College, they're just extraordinary. And I'm coming from India. I have to catch up. But I lived in halls of residence again, Lee Abbey. I keep coming back to it because we had students from all over, from Imperial College who were doing science, and the top students, coming from all around the world. And it gave me a lot of belief because I could actually speak to them about physics or speak to them about computer science. And I thought, okay, I increased my self-belief a lot after coming there. And also you have a lot of London is much easier than in Bombay. You can do a lot of things in one day. You can plan. I'm going to go to college, then do some singing, then do some dancing. You have it all planned. And I found people to be very supportive as well in the opera world. So, and then I went to Wales for 2 years, and that was even better. Very friendly people, a smaller town, smaller city, and in the opera world as well there. People are very supportive. So, but then coming back to London, I like London a lot now, and probably more than I used to like Cardiff a lot, but now when I went back to Cardiff, I think I like London now because I've managed to explore and the opportunities here, working at Royal Opera House, so they take very good care of you. Yeah. What else? I'm trying to think if I look at myself 10 years ago, what has changed? What has changed?
Have you developed new interests since you've been here?
New interests. I think there's singing and then there was dancing. So dancing is an interest which I explored here, but I had it there anyway. New interests. There's nothing major that I can think of at the moment, but I do enjoy dancing here. But then now there's the I'm talking about Latin dancing, and it's very big in India as well. So, and I went back there; it was really enjoyable.
You got into cooking.
Oh, cooking! So, Linda is the reason for. So Linda makes it simple. If you're in India and you look at the kitchen, you look towards the kitchen, it looks, oh my goodness, it looks very complicated. There's so many masalas there. You're gonna put a pinch of this and quarter teaspoon of that, and if you look at a recipe, you think, no, how am I gonna remember this? Or I'm gonna get, if I put half a teaspoon, what's gonna happen? Okay, and it's different. So you just leave it to, in my case, my dad would do it. Or my mom would do it sometimes. So you leave it to them. But then when I came here, I saw Linda cooking. And it didn't seem that she was bothering about, quarter teaspoons of anything. You put it in there and let's see how it goes. So as long as you cook the vegetable, to the extent you want it to. And you put your masalas. We have there's basic rules. It is based not rules, but things that you need to cook the masala properly, and the different stages you put different things. But you can try at each stage. What I've with my engineering part of my brain, said, okay, there's different stages to this Indian cooking, and you can choose your spices at every stage, the powder spices, the whole spices, the oil or whatever, and mix and match and see how it tastes. May as well, you can just have it with salt. You can just have dal with salt to start off, and that's fine. So because you made it so simple, I started my hand at vegetarian cooking. And I thought vegetarian cooking is safer to start off with rather than meat. So I went to meat later. I started cooking meat later on, but I was quite careful about it. But yeah, cooking. And now I pretty much do not eat outside. mainly I don't eat out. So whatever I eat, I cook, and that was not the case in India. So I'm very confident with it.
You also
Apart from
got
the other day
into-
when I burnt the
You also got into gardening, didn't you?
As a child, I used to like to garden as well. But just like I take an onion from the kitchen and go and plant it because we had greenery and hills everywhere. So I'd go and plant it somewhere and then go back to check. And then I didn't do it for ages because I lived in Bombay, which is full of like a concrete everywhere. Unless you're super rich and have a garden or something. But and then here, yeah, I'm trying my hand at it.
And you also got into sewing.
Yeah, I'm not. Sewing again because thing is in India you can easily get things done. You can, you have something torn. It's cheap. If your shoe is broken, you don't need to buy a new shoe. Generally, you get it. The mochi, the corner will do it for you for just a few rupees. But here, we want to fix things. I started fixing a lot of things as well. I used to do that as a kid also. But why not? I buy cheaper clothes and alter them sometimes because I just don't get stuff that fits me so well. But yeah, I've got into so I've started, but again, it's the Linda principle, which is just give it a shot. You don't have to do a whole degree in sewing.
Well, it was like that with songwriting, wasn't it? Because you wrote that lovely song, Halfway to Mars.
Yeah, there as well. There's another thing with the confidence, Just write it out. I'm not a songwriter. I'm not a lyrics writer as such. But you put it out there, and then people was like, "That's good."
No, the lyrics were good.
Yeah,
It was good.
Yeah, you have you, then you have Patricia and Mark also said, "Oh, that's fine. The music, the tune is fine." I thought I'd, go to a composer. I mean, that is kind of a limiting belief here. In Indian music, you can do anything. Or in India in general, even in the church music or something, you can write your tune, write your lyrics. Yeah, here it's like when I came here for studying at the opera, you have a person writes the story that they base it on a book, then somebody writes the libretto, and then somebody writes the music, and they don't sort of do that all generally. Very few people would do that, so you need to be trained in all of that. Whereas you give it a shot sometimes, and you have a talent, and it's fine,
Well, Oscar, that was very interesting. And of course, from an incredible beginning, you were born in a car, weren't you?
I was
on the
born in a
road?
car in a Santa Cruz on the street in India. Yeah.
So that's an incredible journey your life has been, from that original car journey
Yeah.
to here. And so thank you very much. And of course, you set up the whole podcast situation for us with your technical know-how.
Yeah, so I'll have to press the stop button as well. So you're going to see me lunging across the screen now.
Well, this is the real thing.
Okay, thank you.
Pleasure.